These tools absolutely took over Amazon in 2025. The top 5 will surprise you because it did me. Let's go. Some of these top sellers really surprised me, but the #1 bestseller you'll never guess. You'll want to stick around because you're going to want one. Now we're going to break these down by category from sanders to saws to dust collection to routers and a whole bunch more. And then we're going to count down the top 5 best-selling tools on Amazon for us woodworkers. If you'd like to check out any of these tools that I showed today, there'll be a link in the description, the pinned comment, and of course that QR code that you can scan to go directly to my website where you can see all of these tools listed. The first category is clamps. Every woodworker needs clamps and they need more of them. And these were the top sellers for a very good reason on Amazon in this past year, according to the data that I have. First up, Bessie clamps. There's a 4-pack of Bessie clamps that's selling like crazy because you get 2 different sizes, 2 of each. And these are really nice, especially if you're starting out and you need to start building your clamp inventory. It's a good way to do that at a really good price. Bessie clamps, lifetime warranty. They're known for clamps, that's what Bessie's known for. So this is a nice little option to pick up. Another great seller in the bar clamp, or F clamp as I like to call them, is the Jorgensen clamp. I love Jorgensen clamps. I love the handles on these. They're nice beefy handles, nice thick bar on there, just an overall well-made clamp. If you're looking for some really good bar clamps, the Jorgensen's also a great way to go. Now a lot of beginners start trying to figure out how's the best way to start getting clamps that I can use to clamp panels like cutting boards and tabletops, things like that. Pipe clamps are the way to go here because you can pick up several of these in multiple different sizes that won't break the bank. So you can get these 3/4 inch pipe clamps and then put any length of pipe that you need. So if you need really long clamps, you can cut a 60-inch piece of 3/4 inch pipe and use that for your clamp, or at least the bar between the clamps. And then if you need shorter ones, you can just do 24, 36, whatever length you need to clamp up your projects. A lot of people, including myself, start out with the 36-inch. It's a good size, not too big to store. Also, you're just going to be able to clamp up most of your smaller projects like cutting boards, things like that. So the pipe clamps are an excellent way to start. If you need parallel clamps, the hottest sellers on Amazon was this Bora 4-pack. Went crazy this year. These sold thousands of units. And if you were looking for some parallel clamps, these are very popular. One of the most budget-friendly clamping solutions that sold this year was the Wind corner clamps. If you need to clamp up boxes, cabinets, things like that, and hold them square while you attach everything, these are an excellent solution and they're very budget-friendly. And then last but not least, in the clamping category, every woodworker needs some double stick tape. And this X-Fasten sold very well because it's really nice to have in the shop, especially if you're doing things like template routing. You can just tape your template to your piece of stock and then use that to hold it in place while you do your template routing. There's a bunch of other uses for double stick tape, but that's really the main use. I like this X-Fasten because it's not overly sticky and you can remove it fairly easily without leaving a bunch of residue and all that stuff. There's some double stick tape out there that's really thick and it just really is hard to get off, and that's very frustrating. So I like the X-Fasten because of that. Next category is saws. Some of the best-selling saws on Amazon. Here we go. First, the best budget table saw, in my opinion, is the Skil 10-inch table saw. And the reason for that is because of all the features that you get at this price point. At about $329 at the time of this filming, this is one of the best value table saws on the market. You get the full 10-inch size blade on this. You also get a rack and pinion fence that is dead accurate and has plenty of power to cut through most anything that you need. It also has these foldable legs. Should you need it to stand on its own, it can do that. And if you need to fold it where it's not, you can set it on a workbench or something like that, you can do that as well. I reviewed this table saw 3 years ago and I just bought another one to do a follow-up review. So if there's something you'd like to see in that video, let me know in the comments. But I think the Skil is the best budget or beginner level table saw that you can buy right now. Unless you want to step up a little bit in price and check out the Evolution table saw. Evolution is a really nice table saw. It was $399 last year. Now it's at $475. So the price has gone up, but you still get a lot of features. You do get the rack and pinion fence. You do get the sliding feature on here, which is very unique for a table saw in this price range and this size. And then of course you also get the outfeed support, which is also a nice addition. It's a really good table saw if you have the budget. At $475, I think the price is kind of creeping up there a little bit, but it's still a hot seller. And if you need a budget miter saw, one of the best-selling miter saws on Amazon this last year was the Skil 10-inch. I love this miter saw. I think the clamp on here is equal to the $2,000 Festool Capex. It has a similar style clamp. The clamp is one of the very few on these miter saws in this price range that actually work. I like that. It also has a nice shadow line so you know exactly where your blade's gonna cut. It's a 10-inch miter saw, which I think is a perfect size for the workshop. I had a 12-inch, I still have a 12-inch, it's up there, but I actually use a 10-inch in the shop and I find that to be more than adequate. This is also a dual bevel compound miter saw, so you're gonna be able to do anything that you need to do with it. Has plenty of power to do everything you do. Now the dust collection is not the greatest on this saw, but at this price, it's very, very hard to beat. Track saws are one of my favorite tools, probably my favorite tool in a workshop, and one of the hottest sellers on Amazon this year, and for good reason, was the Makita corded track saw, so you don't have to worry about getting into a different battery platform. This thing is dead accurate. It's a proven miter saw over several years. Uses a common style track. While you can pick up the combo with the track and the saw, which I actually recommend, for under $600, this is one of the best value track saws that you can buy, bar none. Has all the adjustments that you would need for depth of cut and bevel, anything you need on a track saw, it's got it, and it does it at a high level. This is a great track saw and one of the hottest sellers on Amazon. Now, there's a couple table saw accessories that went crazy this year. First, the VVOR miter gauge. There's two versions here, one without an extendable fence and one with an extendable fence. Depending on the saw type you have is the one I'll recommend. But both of these are well under $100 and they have some really nice features. First, they're dead accurate. They also do 70 degrees right or left miters, so that's really nice. And then it has this nice stop block that has micro adjustability, so you can dial in that perfect length of cut. Now, if you want the extendable fence, I would recommend that on bigger saws like a cabinet style saw, like a saw stop, something like that. If you're on a job site style saw like the DeWalt or the Skill or even the Evolution, you might want to take a look at the one that doesn't have that extendable fence because you don't really have the table to support that anyway. Overall, excellent budget choice for miter gauge. Is one of the reasons it was a hot seller on Amazon. Next, something that has been on the list for the last several years, I make this video every year, the hottest sellers on Amazon, is the thin rip jig. This thin rip jig has been a hot seller for like 5 years now, for good reason. If you want to cut really thin strips on the table saw, this is the perfect way to do it. Because all you have to do is set it, and then you roll your stock or push your stock up against it, move your fence till it's adjusted right, and then you can start ripping thin strips. And all you have to do is move your fence over every time and bump the stock to the little wheel on there, and it cuts them perfectly every time. So it's a really good way to cut a bunch of thin strips really fast. Next up, sanding. It's not the funnest job we woodworkers like. Some people enjoy it, some people don't. Let me know in the comments. But there's some very hot sellers on Amazon that you need to know about. Sanding and sanding accessories. If you're looking for two of the hottest selling sanders on Amazon this year, first was the DeWalt. Best sander under $100 in my opinion. I have had one of these sanders in my shop since 2017. They're fantastic sanders. There's one with variable speed. There's one without variable speed. Depending on your budget and what you want, if you can budget the variable speed, just go ahead and pick that up. I think that's the best option. There's also a Bosch sander that I think is equally as good as a Festool Rotex because it does basically the same thing. 6-inch sander. It has two modes, a gear-driven mode and then a regular orbital sanding mode. This is like best of both worlds. If you really need to eat some material off or some finish off or something like that, put it in gear-driven mode, turbo mode. This thing is very powerful, kind of like a belt sander, but spinning around. It's that powerful. Or you could just switch it to regular orbital sanding mode and do normal sanding tasks like sanding wood for tabletops, cutting board, anything like that. So one of the reasons why this is one of the best selling sanders, especially a 6-inch sander, in this price range. It's hottest selling sandpaper according to the stats I could find, the 3M Extract. People absolutely love this sandpaper. I do too. That's why I have a whole box full of it right here from all sorts of grits. One of the great things about this sandpaper is the fact that they're using technology in the actual grit to help remove the material as efficiently as possible. And because this is a net sandpaper, dust collection works extremely well with it. Or if you're even using a sanding bag on your sander, it'll actually help pull that in as well. The reason I like the net style sandpaper is because of that airflow. It also helps keep the sander cooler, but also the sandpaper cooler so things don't gunk up on there. If your sandpaper gets overheated, you'll start seeing a lot of that caking up on the bottom of that sandpaper, and you really don't want that. So you can get this sandpaper in 5 or 6 inch diameter so it covers any type of sander that you're going to be using. And another little sanding accessory that was a hot seller is this little sanding box or storage box. It's meant for art supplies, but it works perfect for 5 and 6 inch paper. You can see I keep it full, and it's also nice to be able to see when I'm running low on certain grits. And another accessory for sanding that has been hot for a while, not just this hose, it's a sanding adapter kit. So if you need to adapt your shop vac down to your smaller tools like sanders, routers, track saws, that sort of thing, this has all the adapters you need to get down to those ports that are on these sanders or routers or anything like that. They have a smaller port. There's a way to adapt that into that hose into your current shop vac. That way it helps you with that dust collection. For the price, this adapter kit is a must-have in my opinion, and one of the reasons why it is such a hot seller. Some of the hottest selling hand tools on Amazon for woodworkers this year starts right here. A Kyrie handsaw or a Japanese pull saw. These are really nice to have around the shop for cutting small parts or even doing some handsaw work if you're into hand tools. This is one of the hottest sellers because of the price. About $25 or less. Fantastic little option. Next, the DFM small square and center finder. This little thing is perfect for checking the ends of chisels or even inside of small boxes, but also that center finding function. You drop those two pins in, then you can find the center very easily of thinner stock. It's a really hot seller and it's made right here in the USA. Next, 1, 2, 3 setup blocks. These are essential in a wood shop as far as I'm concerned. These are machinist blocks, so they are perfectly 1 inch by 2 inch by 3 inches, and you can use that in a variety of ways to set up everything in the shop, from fences to even blade heights, bit heights, that sort of thing. But if you use one at the table saw, you can use it to set up a distance, an exact distance from 1 inch all the way up to 6 inches. And you can also use these to calibrate things. So if I need to calibrate my table saw fence to my blade, I can just set this between the blade and the fence until it bumps, and then I can use that to calibrate that window where it actually shows what distance you are away from the blade. These are perfect for that sort of thing. And they're very inexpensive. I actually have a video of 25 different things you can do with these. If you'd like to check that out, just search 731 Woodworks, 1, 2, 3 setup blocks, you should find that. And this little hand tool went viral this year. This is an Irwin construction jack. Lifts up to 330 pounds each. What these are really good for, what I use it for most around the house is my wife wants to move the couch around or wants to move some piece of furniture around. I can take this in there, jack that dude up, put some sliders under it, and I don't break my back. But you can also use them in the shop to help hold things up, like if you're making cabinets or anything else you need to just kind of hold steady. It's a really good option for that. I actually used this the other day to lift up my saw stop because it was unlevel. I wanted to level up a little more, so I was able to jack that big old heavy machine up, put some shims under it to keep it nice and level. This thing is handy as a shirt pocket. Jacks up basically anything that weighs 330 pounds or less. One of the hottest selling tools that come on the scene recently, this has probably been out for a while, but for whatever reason, this just started selling like crazy over the last couple of months. This is the Klein 11-in-1 ratcheting screwdriver. It has a lot of features built into this tiny little screwdriver, and people are buying these like crazy, and I bought one myself. First of all, it's a ratcheting screwdriver. There's a little knob right here that you can turn to make it go righty-tighty or lefty-loosey. This also reveals a hidden secret. When you pull on the stem of the screwdriver, it unveils multiple different bits that are up inside of it. So you actually have a ton or 11 different uses for this screwdriver. Each end you can flip around the bit that's in there, from a square drive to a Phillips, or a flathead to a Torx. And you also have a 3/8 inch and 5/16 inch nut driver included in this little kit. It's one of the best-selling little screwdrivers on the market right now. Let's talk about routers and routers accessories and the best sellers on Amazon. First, there's two routers that sell like crazy on Amazon. First is the DeWalt, second is the Bosch 1617, and not necessarily even in that order. They sell a lot of units because these are probably two of the best routers you can buy for your shop. Corded routers, so you don't even have to worry about a battery platform here. This is the DeWalt DW618. And then the Bosch is the 1617. I've had the 1617 in my router table for years now. It is a nice workhorse. Both of these are 2¼ horsepower. They're very similar, but there's a couple of minor differences that may make you choose one or the other. Both of these come with a fixed and a plunge base. You can get them with fixed base only, but I would recommend getting them with the plunge base as well because of how versatile it's going to make it. I actually compared both of these in a video to find out which one was best, and it's really going to come down to preference. I like the plunge base better on the Bosch, but I like the fixed base better on this DeWalt. I love the ring that you twist to get that micro adjustment on the fixed base on the DeWalt, but I love how the plunge base works on the Bosch a whole lot better. It just depends on which one you're going to be using the most, but overall, either one of these, you can't go wrong. If you're looking for a really good budget option for a router and router table combo, Skil makes a really good one. I love everything about this except the fence if you're going to be doing jointing specifically. I think it has just too much play in it to work very well for that. I tried it, couldn't really get it to do right. But for other router table functions, if you're just looking for a basic router table, this is a really solid option, and you get the actual router, which is a fantastic router at this price point. If you have routers, you need router bits, and good quality router bits makes a huge difference. I've recommended the Whiteside 4-piece set for a very long time because you get a roundover, a chamfer, and 2 flush trim bits. Probably 4 of the most common bits you'll ever use. Made by Whiteside right here in the USA, and they're just good quality bits. They last a long time. The sharpness lasts a long time. This is a good set of bits and probably why it's one of the best-selling sets on Amazon. Craig makes one of the hottest router accessories on Amazon. This is a really good jig to do chamfers or radiuses in the corners of boards, like cutting boards, tabletops, things like that. If you're just trying to get a roundover, different radius roundover on the corners of those boards, this is a really good way to do it. It's a really grippy bottom, has 4 posts on the very bottom that lock into each side of that corner. Then from there, you'll use one of your template bits or your flush trim bits, kind of like you got in that Whiteside set. You'll be able to use that bearing to ride right along that radius and get the exact one you want. It comes with various different radiuses or chamfers as well, so you have a whole lot of different profiles you can make. You can swap those radiuses or chamfers out very easily. They snap right in. And for the price, this is one of the reasons this is one of the hottest selling router accessories on Amazon. Next, shop organization and storage. Some of the hottest sellers, Bora lumber racks, have been a hot seller for a very long time for a good reason. They hold a bunch of weight, and it's a good way to keep your lumber organized. They're very easy to install, and I've had 2 sets in my shop for years and have had them stacked full of lumber many times, and they work just fine. Also, the Works folding work table. You can use these either as a sawhorses or as a temporary work table. Lots of clamping options on top, as well as they hold a lot of weight. I've even used one for a miter stand. It works well for that. These are really good options if you need extra workspace or if you just need a space-saving work table. These are nice to have. Talk about safety, the next category. First, RZ masks. I've recommended these for years. Replaceable filter, very easy to replace, very easy to put on, strap back, and you're ready to go. Velcro. I've had one of these for a very long time in red and yellow. There's different colors, green. So if you need a dust mask, it's a good way to go. Next, one of the most popular table saw safety accessories ever made. 25 years this has been in production. This is the Micro Jig Gripper Pro. Has a lot of really good features built right in for only 49 bucks. If you don't have one of these yet, I would recommend picking them up. Nice grippy bottom. This center leg moves so you can move it over the blade, keep it from hitting the blade so you have support on both sides of your cut. Drop down leg for different thicknesses of stock, and you can use these at the table saw, the router table, even the bandsaw and jointer. It's a good safety option if you don't have one. Also, another table saw or even a bandsaw accessory, this is the bow feather board. I like these because they have these foam tips or feathers that prevent kickback, keep your stock pushed up against the fence, so it gives you more accurate cuts while also not marring the wood because this is foam, so it's not going to hurt anything. And even if this did get into a blade or something, it shouldn't, but if you do cut into it, it's just foam, and these are absolutely replaceable. Really good option for feather boards. Then at the miter saw, the Fast Cap $1 million stick or $10 million stick. This is a really good finger saver. If you've ever tried to cut a small part or got a little too close to the blade, made you feel a little uncomfortable, that's where this really shines because you're going to be able to keep pressure down on your stock while you're making your cut at the miter saw. It's a good little safety option. One of the best paint sprayers under $100, this is in the finishing category. It's the only thing I have here in this category. The HomeRite Finish Max Super, less than $100. I've had one of these since 2017. I've sprayed oil-based finishes or stains with this. I've also sprayed regular water-based paints. It's not a $500 paint sprayer, but for less than $100, it is a very good option. Comes with 3 different tips. It's very easy to clean up and does a fairly good job for less than $100. Again, not a $500 paint sprayer, but for less than $100, it's going to save you a whole bunch of time. It's one of the most used tools that saved me the most time that I've ever had. All right, we're almost to the top 5, but first, planers. The best-selling planer that I've seen on Amazon this last year is the workhorse, the DeWalt DW735X. There's a reason why this thing is so popular and has been for decades. First, it's a 2-speed planer, so you can, if you're doing rough dimensioning, you're just trying to get your lumber down close to the dimension that you want, put it on that number 2 setting, it's gonna run it through faster. But when you get down ready for those final passes, switch it over to the number 1 setting and let it get that final finish pass, a nice smooth finish at the end. I also love the depth gauge on here that tells you about how much you're gonna be taking off. It has a turret style depth stop as well, so you can get those common thicknesses really easily. It's on those ball screws, 1 on each corner, so it does raise and lower really accurately and smoothly. Has a built-in blower, so even if you don't have dust collection, I've been guilty of running the hose outside the shop and just letting it blow the dust out. Now there is a 735 model versus a 735X. The differences is the X comes with an extra set of blades and those in-feed and out-feed tables. And if you have the budget, I would recommend going ahead and getting the 735X. It's a solid option, one of the best-selling planers on Amazon. If you're looking for a budget option, there is a Craftsman option that I recommend. For budget is a few $100s cheaper. It does have some sniping issues out of the box, or mine did. It was easy to work those out depending on how you raise and lower the tables. But it did have that out of the box, just so you know. But it is one of those that is a very budget-friendly planer as far as planers go, if you're looking for one of those. Next, one of the easiest ways I've ever found to sharpen chisels, but I wouldn't recommend you buy this on Amazon unless it's sold out in this other place. This is the G-Sharp Sharp Edge. It's very easy to sharpen chisels for beginners. All you're going to do is step through the grits of diamond plates that are included, and when you're done, you'll have a razor sharp edge on a chisel. Even if you've never sharpened a chisel before, even if you're intimidated by sharpening chisels, this is dead simple. But I would actually recommend buying it at Tay Tools because it is slightly cheaper there versus Amazon. If you like buying from Amazon, I'll put the link down there. Again, I would recommend checking out Tay Tools for price a comparison just to see which one's going to give you the best deal. Top 5 hottest selling tools on Amazon in 2025. Here we go. Number 5, the Brockler bench cookies. I've had these for years and I've used them a bunch for a bunch of different reasons. First, you can set your stock up on them so that you can sand or route around the edges or anything you need it up off the bench for. What I use these most for is when I'm cutting sheet goods with a track saw or even a circular saw. I put these under to support the piece that I'm cutting, and then I don't have to worry about cutting into my workbench. I have actually cut into one of these. If you want to zoom in, you can see that little line right there. You know what? It didn't hurt the blade because it's just rubber and plastic. These are the hottest sellers because they're under $20. You get a set of 4. I would actually recommend picking up 2 sets because especially if you're working with a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of plywood, it's best to have 8. Next, corner clamps from WE Tools. These are really good if you're building frames or boxes or anything like that. One of the reasons these are so popular is because they're so inexpensive. These are regularly on sale for way less than $20. I think the retail price is around $22 at the time of this filming, but a lot of times you can get these for less than $15. They're a solid value at this price, and they have sold thousands upon thousands this year for good reason. Number 3, one of the hottest selling things I ever seen on Amazon happened this year, and that's this DeWalt Small Parts Organizer. This is a Tough Case Plus, so if you have any of these bits like in these Tough Cases, they will lock onto the top. This little thing has nice little dividers that you can move. This is great for storing bits like drill bits, driver bits. It could also be used for router bits or screws, nuts, bolts. People are buying these by the thousands this year, and I picked one up myself. Number 2 on the list, thousands upon thousands of these tape measures have been sold this year. This is the Fast Cap Lefty Righty. This is a hot seller for a specific reason. First, this thing has a built-in pencil sharpener. If you use a standard pencil, you can just sharpen it right up. The belt clip is absolutely fantastic. It's also a nice little rugged tape measure, so it does take a beating pretty well. And you can actually write on the surface of this thing and then wipe it clean, so you can keep up with measurements right here on your tape measure. But the reason why this is such a hot seller is what you see on the blade. This is a lefty-righty. In other words, it doesn't matter which direction you're looking at this tape measure from, you can read the markings because nothing's upside down, which is really great. But the main reason this is such a hot seller is you can read everything from 1/16 all the way to 15/16 right here on this blade. I love the fact that this is laid out there. This is perfect for beginners who may not know how to read a tape measure yet, but it's also perfect for those who want to basically keep mistakes down, because if you see a 1/4 inch and mark a 1/4 inch, kind of sticks in your mind a little better. And for the price of this tape measure, that's why it flies off the shelf. All right, the number 1 selling tool on Amazon that's totally surprised me, maybe it'll surprise you, maybe not. It is a Japanese flush trim saw, not to be confused with this style saw, the pull saw. This is a flush trim saw. This thing is great for trimming off dowels or cutting out small parts, and this thing literally sold thousands and thousands and thousands of units this year. It was the biggest selling tool that I showed all year long, and that's that flush trim saw. Again, if you'd like to check out any of these tools, link in the description, the pinned comment, and of course you can scan the QR code so you can go check out all of these tools. Did your favorite tool make the list? If not, let me know in the comments what I missed. If you like this video, you'll love the top 20 tools at Home Depot under 30 bucks. You gotta go check that video out. If you missed any of those, click in that box to get you the big old virtual fist bump.